Welcome back to another Gear Talk. It's a Thursday. As you can see by the sandals, we're talking about Jasi Tak today. Like Tak and the power of Juju. I went my whole life up until Tak was introduced in the actual games to know that it was not Talk but Tak. Because when I read the books, I thought it was By Talk was his name. It's By Tak. So I am sorry already. I'm going to say at least Talk a few times, I'm very certain. But welcome everybody. It's another Thursday. We're talking about Jasi Tak today, the pilot for the Hivebuster crew, pretty much his King Raven and everything we're going to go over. As you can see, I'm in a good mood. I'm wearing my my CM Punk shirt. As you can tell, if you haven't heard, if you live under a rock, he's returned after 7 years back to pro wrestling. I love me some CM Punk, favorite wrestler. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about Jasi Tak and everything we know about him for this week's Gear Talk. So in order to talk about Jasi, I'm going to have to first start talking about his grandfather, Bai, because Bai is actually a main character in the books. He has his own chapters and everything. Because in the books, it kind of goes with, like, it goes through their perspectives, and he has his own section in that. He comes up in the comics. The Pesang I got to talk about. The Pensang I always call them. It's the Pesang, I believe they're called. Again, I didn't know a lot of this until they were verbally said finally in the games. So, Tak, Pesang. Okay, let's start off getting all of that taken care of. So, the country of origin that at least Jasi's family at least comes from is around the Pesang area. Now, it's a mountainous region. You could think kind of like, I think it was kind of described a little bit like the Himalayas. You could kind of see it as the mountainous area. They're predominantly, and this is different in Gears because they don't really just state races because everyone comes from a different place. He is more of, you could say Asian, or at least that southern Asian area on like one of the main continents. You know, like Japan's off of like Asia, and Asia's attached to Europe, like that big continent compared to like North America, South America. Towards the bottom around like west of India, around that area, that's the best I can say. Because again, they don't really talk about our nationalities or anything in Gears because it's their own world. So he comes from around that area. At least his nationality does. As far as I'm aware, he was at least born there and brought over to the mainland, and that's where he ends up coming into the story. Now, he comes into the story because he comes with his family, and it's mostly like his grandmother and all of her children and all that family and all the family of her children. It's just like a giant family convoy, kind of the Tak family. So, because when Jasi Tak was in the military, he was good friends with Hoffman. We're going to get to that part. But a lot of the money he would have when he was helping the COG would go to his family to help support them. And it did a lot more than just support. Like, the family got very big because everything was taken care of for them. Not in a good way, still poverty-wise, but still taken care of. So, the family got really big, and they went to the mainland to kind of seek shelter. Because at this point was the Lambent situation when we come across them the first time. Well, not the first time, but the first time the family convoy we come across. And we just meet them along with Patrick Sultan, another one of Hoffman's friends. And they're just pretty much going through and trying to find somewhere to live. Talking a bit about Bai before we get over to Jasi. And I'm just going to say their names because I'm going to keep calling Tak, Talk. And I just don't want to keep getting that mixed up. So, if we're going to talk about Jasi, Bai has to come up. Bai was around during the Pendulum Wars, and he was a Pesang soldier that was allied with the COG. Now, the thing you need to know is that the COG, they were allied with them, but it wasn't one of the COG's nations. So, there was a lot of, don't know what the right word to say with it is, kind of like, think of it more like you're with us, but you're not one of us. So anything like major or like big you would do, we don't celebrate that because you're not like, we're not going to celebrate someone who's an outsider. They're still outsiders to the COG, the Pesang are. So it turns out during all of that, Bai would assist the COG, which they would still take assistance from their allies, but they wouldn't say like, okay, you're one of us. And he would assist the COG. And what the COG would do in return is, okay, we're at least going to, pay you a military wage for assisting us, or, you would get something like, I don't know, protection. Because, again, pesting was more like if, like, the UIR came into that place, the COG wouldn't run in just like, oh, we got to save our allies. It wasn't like that, but they were kind of like, we're going to assist the COG. So, Bai would assist with them, and he fell under helping out with Hoffman. This is where they come across each other. Hoffman fights along with them, and the Pesthanger are known really well for their very quiet undercover work. They weren't really undercover, but quiet guerrilla warfare. They could travel without being heard, and they made them very effective in the field, and that's what Hoffman really liked about them. So after a while, he gets to know Bai very well. They become really good friends, and so good that at one point even Bai gives Hoffman a machete and says, like, here, this is like something of coming of age. If you're a man in our culture, I want you to have this as a gift from me and my people to you. And Hoffman takes it and sees them all as just brothers. Later on, during Operation Leveler, Bai actually dies trying to save Dom's life when they're trying to evacuate, and Bai's dead. And don't forget, during all of this, he's trying to support his wife and his kids at home. Hoffman, being such a good friend, again, the COG allies, not like you're one of us, says, you know, we're not going to give you our most decorated award that you do deserve because you're not COG. Hoffman does not like this. Hoffman did get the Embry Star, which is the most coveted award, and he said, screw all of you. Bai should have got one. I'm out of here. And he mails it off. I believe he mails it off to his wife, Bai's wife, and says, hey, your husband deserved this. They didn't give him one. You get to have mine. Go ahead. And I believe it's either a one-time big payment or like over time. He sends money to them. And there's a lot more small things to talk about with that. Kind of like, oh, did Hoffman know if they were alive still when the Locust came up? Or how was communication? How did he know? Well, the long story is he didn't, because communication was just bad when the Locust came up. You could talk like a few miles back and forth or military comms, but you couldn't talk far. And that was the big issue for Bernie, for instance, because Bernie didn't know what was happening on the mainland when she was on the islands, and she was trying to get to the mainland so much, but she never could figure out what was going on, and she couldn't find transportation there half the time. So that was kind of the situation. As far as Hoffman knew, the family was either doing their own thing or they were dead. He had no clue. Jump all the way to like 15 to 16 AE, so a long time later. Hoffman, Bernie, and Dizzy decide to go off and claim Anvil Gate because they need a place to live, because they just decide we need to start spreading out. The whole Hoffman situation that happened on Vectis left a sour taste in everyone's mouth. They went off to Anvil Gate. And he sees a bunch of survivors coming up, and he's like, okay, what can I do here? What's going on? Who are you? And he sees Bai's wife is leading the convoy pretty much, and he's like, Hoffman! And he's like, oh my God, you're all still alive. And again, like a lot of like, I'm 8 minutes into this video now, but all of this to lead up to, we finally get to Jasi. And this is when Jasi is first introduced. He's a small kid. He was a part of the convoy with his grandmother. Again, his mother and father are with him. One of the happier stories in Gears, his family is pretty much still alive. Like the majority of his family is. His grandfather isn't, but the majority is. Not many people can say that. So he is now over there with Anvil Gate, and he learns about pretty much like, this is Hoffman, this is the man who fought with your grandfather, this is the man who's running everything. And from there, we learn that Jasi starts to take up hunting. He starts to learn under Bernie for survival. He starts to get good at it. He shoots his first, they're hunting goat. He shoots his first goat, and he takes it down. It comes back home with him and Bernie, and he says, like, can we keep doing this? Can we keep hunting? And Bernie tells him, like, yeah, we need to keep up, like, meat, supplies, and everything. So, yeah, we're going to keep hunting, yeah. And that's all we get from him right there. Like, normally you would think, like, you know, is there more to it? But no. It ends with him bringing it home, talking to his father, and they're going to go clean the goat. And that's where it ends. Now, the first time we actually see Jasi in the current storyline is when we actually have the Condor that was going to deliver Team Scorpio to where they were going to Hoffman, I believe they're being dropped off to. It crashes, and they fight their way through the island. They finally get to where they're going, and they figure out the Condor's been destroyed, but the radio's still intact. They get a hold of it, and there's Jasi, like, I can come grab you guys. I'm going to get you to where you need to go. I'm with Hoffman. I'll take care of this. I don't think he says I'm with Hoffman, but he says, like, I can come and get you. So Jasi goes off after a while while Scorpio's defending against Swarm, and he gets him and he says, "Alrighty, let's get going, come on." And you get to see his badass customized, like, he's got his own skin on it and everything, his own Raven. It's got a Leviathan right on the front. You can tell the guy's taking a lot of time to really enjoy his Raven. I want to imagine he's customized it, so it's probably a little better than most, because he's had 25 years since he was a child to now. I want to believe he's had time to customize and make this thing look awesome. So he gets his own Raven, picks him on up, brings him back to Hoffman, and as you can see, Hoffman's still alive. You can see when Hoffman goes by, he's got a picture of him and Bernie on the island, so I have a feeling that probably Jasi was just hanging with them most of the time, now and then, throughout the 25 years. You learn that he's pretty much become a really good pilot, and he's helping Uncle Hoffman, because that's the name that everyone called him pretty much. All the grandkids and like the kids of Bai. That's what they call him, like Uncle Hoffman. So you learn that pretty much he's just been chilling helping Hoffman these past 25 years, or at least been near them, because it's been 25 years of peace. So he's been doing all of that. He hasn't done anything. That's the thing. Like, major story-wise in the universe, he hasn't. I'm sure he's done things. He has his own machete, so he had his coming of manhood that happened. But he's just the pilot for the Team Scorpio, and I'm guessing Hoffman approached him with it like, "Listen, you don't have to do this. You know, I've known your family well. I know you're dependable. I know you're good people. I need help." And he probably said, "Of course, Uncle, let's do it. Let's totally do it." Because he's just a laid-back dude, like the surfer dude you'd see now and then. Like, totally, let's do this. So his job is normally he's extracting, and he's picking up people now and then for the Hivebusters, Team Scorpio. He's the pilot. And you see him throughout the DLC, and I'm not going to really jump into the DLC this much, because all you really see him are just scenes where he's either dropping off Scorpio or picking them up. There is one scene I'll talk about. There is one scene. And that's the scene where they're getting Hana out of when she gets abducted, and they save her, and he gets her up for extraction, and he's now going to extract Scorpio. And this is where you get a feel of his skills as a pilot. So he's extracting them when the Wakatu decides to rear its ugly head and decide to take this thing on. He takes its Raven on, so pretty much like machinery versus nature, which we had a good feel of that from Gears 4 at least, and kind of a little bit from 3, but more from 4, of like technology versus nature. And we have this situation where the Wakatu is chasing him off, and he's like, you guys gotta drop. If I keep trying to get you through this, I'm gonna die and crash this thing. You guys are gonna die. Both of us will. I don't know. I need to drop you guys and outrun this thing. I've got Hana on board. We need to get going. So he gets up and he gets going, and this is where Scorpio's fighting their way through, clearing their way to get somewhere to get extracted. And they finally get there. The Wakatu's pinned them down, and they're starting to choke up on the fumes of the acid. And that's when Jasi just rises on up. He's just ready for a fight. And you get this great scene, this amazing scene, where it's his Raven right here and the Wakatu just staring each other down. And I don't remember if it was before or after, but at one point he turns it. Hana's got the machine. Yeah, it should be after. She's got the turret, and she's just unloading on this thing. And that's what makes the Wakatu run, and they all get extracted and they get out of there. I guess the one more thing I'll mention from the story, because there's not too much for him in the story. He's introduced, and he's a good character, but it's more of just like you can tell he's a side character. They get back, Scorpio gets back to confront Hoffman about how this isn't a COG sanctioned thing, nothing here makes any sense. And as far as I'm aware, they ask Hana about it, and Hana has no clue, I don't think, what they're talking about. I very much believe, though, that Jasi at least, Tak knew. Jasi fully knew this was nothing to do with COG. He's not a COG pilot as far as I'm aware, because, again, Pesang, unless, Anna wanted to change it around when she became the new chairman. But he probably fully knew this has nothing to do with the COG. Nothing at all. We're going around busting hives right now. Good luck trying to get an answer of what's really going on here, because there is nothing going on. This is off the book. So, and that's just an assumption. They never confront him on it at all. He just picks him up and brings him back to Hoffman. And it's not the last time we see him, because he drops them off to go after the Wakatu. And then we lead to the comics. Again, this is the first time we as an audience meet him, because the The comic came out first, but the DLC takes place before the comic. This is where he says, like, Uncle, we learn his name, and this is where we make the connection to Tak from the first one, by Tak. So not much here. He drops him off over near Croya so they can get to Brevel, because I believe that's the closest he can drop them, or they need to make the trip. And they go out there, they finish up the job, they come back, he picks them on up, and they just leave. Again, not too much there for him in the story-wise. He's just there. That's pretty much his character, and I love it. It's simplistic, and it just makes sense. But anyway, well, there's a little bit more trivia I guess we can cover about good old Jasi before we continue. So I said continue, I meant finish. We're almost done with this because there's not too much for facts I can drop on good old Jasi. And again, Jasi, I'm calling him that because I'll get Tak and Tak mixed up until I die at this point. I already mentioned in the video for a few things. He has his machete, which means he's become of age. He's considered a man. It's a cultural thing. I want to know, like, how him and Hoffman react, because Hoffman also has one given to him by Bai. His King Raven, again, it's his own personal one. It's a Mark II. It has a Leviathan spray on the front of it. What else is crazy about him? One of the only characters right now that's appeared in, because I don't remember if he has a talking point or not in the books, but technically, because the family arrived, he would have technically, I think, been in the books. At least, even in the background, he would have technically been there timeline-wise, at least in front of Hoffman. So he's been in the books, the comics, and the games, that means. I'm at least going to consider it that. Coalition's End, again, an amazing scene. If you've never read it, read that scene. It's so amazing when they first, he comes across the Pesang gang, which is the Tak family. That was amazing to read. In the comic, it's very short. He's introduced to be hunting with Bernie. We never see him again, but we know he survived. And I think that's everything I have here. I can't think of anything else I can miss. I guess I brought it up with Lonnie. I'll bring it up with him too. The future for him. I don't see him doing anything crazy. I feel the Hivebusters, the main three, will make an appearance in 6, or at least be mentioned a lot. I feel like he would make a cameo, or at least be seen, or like dropping them off. He has fighting abilities, so he could. I mean, if his Raven was taken down, I'm sure he knows how to fire a Lancer. He's been around Hoffman. It's been 25 years. I'm sure he knows how to fire a gun. He hunted with Bernie. He knows how to use a sniper rifle, or at least a rifle in general. So he'll probably be alive, but I don't see anything major or crazy with him. I think he'll just be like, hey, I'm here. I exist. Hi. I think that's all we're going to get. So that's going to do it for this one. I can't think of anything else. I mean, he won the poll. People love him. I love him. I think he's great. I got sandals up in the background. I love the dude. But that'll do it for now. I don't know what next week's video is going to be. I'll have a poll coming up soon for the next character discussion. But yeah, I think for now that's going to do it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for making this possible. Thank the patrons for making things possible. There's a store now, link below. I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Later.